How long until I'm actually good at drawing?
If you're asking this question, you're in luck because I'll actually show you. This week, I asked my students to submit their early works, early drawings, and thanks to them, I've been able to put together what I think is an awesome visual timeline, of what you can expect at every stage of your journey from the very beginning, a few months in to years into it. You'll see a wide variety of examples. But real quick, before we look at that, the answer to how long it actually takes to get good completely depends on what you mean by good and how you practice. And I'm gonna give you the honest timeline today, broken down by actual skill stages, so you'll know exactly where you're headed and approximately how long it should take. I've personally never seen anything like this, and I'm guessing that most of you haven't either, so this should be pretty eye-opening, hopefully. So before we talk about the time it takes, we need to actually define what it means to be good. And I've classified drawing skills in roughly 5 stages. At stage 1, you're a beginner. Your drawings look recognizable but stiff, your proportions are off, you're fighting your hand the entire time. At stage 2, you're competent. So your drawings look decent. Friends will say wow, that's good when they check out your art, but you can see all the mistakes still. Your copying references okay, but you struggle drawing from imagination. At stage 3, you're skilled. Your work will start to look professional to some people. You can draw most things from imagination with some reference, and then people online won't immediately clock you as an amateur artist. Now at stage 4, advanced, you have a recognizable style. You can execute complex pieces, other artists respect your work, you could work professionally. And in stage 5, you're basically a master of the craft. You're pushing the medium. Other artists will study your work. You've spent 10 plus years after reaching advanced level obsessing over this craft. So most people asking how long to actually get good probably mean how long to get to stage 3. Skilled enough for my work to appear as professional to some people. So that's what we'll focus on. So now let's actually answer the question, how long it actually takes to get good. Here's the reality that I've observed based on teaching thousands of students. The total journey from complete beginner to stage 3, so skilled, almost professional, takes 18 months to 3 years of deliberate practice. Now, obviously, this will depend on the individual, how well and how often you practice. But let's go over that. How much practice do you actually need to make that timeline a reality? Well, that's gonna be roughly an hour a day, 5 to 6 days a week of focused study. Not doodling, not tracing, not just drawing for relaxation, deliberate practice where you're actively trying to learn, where your brain is fully engaged, when studying anatomy, learning about color theory maybe, practicing figure drawing where you're really carefully observing your reference to try and replicate it as closely as possible, that kind of stuff. So now let me break down what actually happens during that time, month per month. This is your beginner phase. You'll struggle to draw everything. Your circles are wonky, your lines are shaky, your proportions are way off. This is completely normal. At this stage, you're learning stuff like line control and different types of strokes, how to see and measure things visually accurately, learning to draw basic shapes and understanding the fundamental of construction, and then simple perspective concepts. Your work looks like definitely someone who's learning to draw, because that's exactly what you are. Not for everybody, but often the frustration here is real, but pushed through. Everyone starts here. And as you look at my students' examples here, while these were all made during their first 3 months of learning to draw, the amount of practice that each individual had varied, so this is more of a range, of what you should expect when you get to that point. But I've personally never had that, so I think it's pretty interesting to see a visual target of what you can expect with some experience when you're just starting as a beginner. So let's see how they progressed from here. Now you're moving into competency. You'll have a lot of aha moments where just things start to make a lot more sense. Things start to click. Your line quality will start to improve noticeably. You'll be able to draw recognizable characters and objects, even if they're still stiff and somewhat wonky sometimes. And typically what you should be working on or what you should be practicing around that time, or at least what I teach, as part of my art school program, for example, will be things like gesture drawing and capturing movement, basic anatomy and proportions, also really understanding how basic perspective works, and then stuff like values, a little bit of color theory, and basic shading. Usually by that point, you'll be able to draw like decent character sketches, some maybe simple environments, or like copies of drawings from different artists that you admire. And then your friends, if you have any, will start saying stuff like, wow, that's actually really good. Like people close to you will start to notice like you're getting significantly better. But here's the thing, you can still see how far you have to go. Like every pro artist that you look at will seem impossibly far away. But this like gap awareness, is actually a sign that you're getting better. It's a sign of progress. And this is exactly why I built my art program, to give people an optimized path. Also a little bit as a middle finger to traditional art schools that just put students in perpetual debt. For a subpar education, mind you. But yeah, if you're serious about getting good as soon as possible, like without wandering around trying to figure out what to learn next, check down the video description for a link to my complete art education program, Art School for Digital Artists. It's on sale now for Halloween. You'll find all the details in the description, so check it out to make sure you know exactly when the sale ends and not miss out. It's the curriculum that I wish I had when I was starting. Structured, week by week, taking you from fundamentals to advanced concepts in the right order. And we also have a private Discord community full of artists to, level up alongside of. It's everything you need to get good if you want the straightest path possible to that goal. But to be fair, you don't need it to get good. It's just a luxury if you'd rather not waste time. Like if you have discipline and you're a good self-learner, or if your budget isn't quite there yet. I actually made a class that you can watch for free, going over all the art skills to tackle and in which order. It's a popular class that you should definitely check out after the video. I'll put a link down in the description for convenience. All right, now you've reached what I call like the competent but frustrated stage. And paradoxically, this is when a lot of people will quit, but it's exactly when you shouldn't quit. Like the way that I think about it is at that point, you're like right at the bottom of the curve before it starts to shoot up like crazy. So like you're good enough now to really notice your mistakes. You compare yourself to professionals and feel a little bit defeated. Every new drawing you make like reveals 2 or 3 new problems that you didn't even know existed. And at that stage, you'd be learning stuff like advanced anatomy and like sculpting with paint, like more advanced perspective and introducing maybe a little bit of foreshortening. You'll start to learn different rendering techniques, like maybe more advanced color theory. And then you'll start to adopt like different methods of working, like different types of workflow that eventually down the line you'll make your own, but now you're starting to get used to it, like reading a recipe in a recipe book for the first time. So at this stage, you should be able to draw like different pieces of work that get some attention online. We're not talking about like hundreds or thousands of likes, but you're starting to get some attention. And then hopefully by then, maybe you're not as embarrassed, to show your work anymore. Like you're starting to feel proud of some of your pieces. Maybe not all of them, but some of them once in a while, you're like, oh. So this is like the end of your first year, seriously starting to learn art. So you're really building like your foundation as an artist, like learning all the art fundamentals, all stuff that's going to help you immensely moving forward. Now you're in your second year of learning art and you're basically in the refinement stage at this point. You're not learning completely new concepts as much as you are deepening existing ones. You're really starting to build a visual library, at least for those without aphantasia. Like the people that can't really picture things in their head. But yeah, anyways, at this stage, you start to notice your unique artist voice emerging. So what you'll be learning at this stage is stuff like drawing like complex forms from imagination, maybe like advanced color and lighting theory, starting to really keep in mind composition and different design principles. You're also starting to develop your style. And overall, you should feel like your work is a little bit more efficient than it used to be. Like you're wasting less time on different things. And all of that should allow you to be able to draw things like, drawings that look quasi-professional, let's say, where like maybe the average person might not be able to really see a difference between yours and like a entry-level professional. At this stage, is to be able to execute most ideas that you have in your head, even if it might take some, maybe a lot of iteration, but you typically get there eventually. Whereas before, like you just couldn't, like you didn't have the tools to do that. And then also, hopefully you start to understand like the principles of art well enough that you're able to start bending them a little bit. You're not going as by the book as you were before. starting to explore, like having a little bit more fun. And now you've reached stage 3. You're skilled, bro. You can draw at a quasi-professional level pretty consistently. Like the times where you'll be thinking, I don't think I can draw this will become more and more rare. Instead, you'll start to wonder, like, what's the best way to execute this? You know, like instead of seeing like this big wall that you don't think you can go through, instead now it's like this forest path that's got a couple of branches in the way, but you kind of see a path. You know, like you feel confident that you can make it through it. Like you'll be working on stuff like expanding your range and versatility. You're starting to get like significantly faster, but also just more efficient at doing things. So you end up losing less time, which in a way makes you faster. Now, like other people are starting to notice your style and associate it to you. A lot of what art is about when you get to that stage is, you know, like complex problem solving. So like, how do I represent that thing with a very limited set of tools? And at this stage, you should be able to find solutions a lot more quickly. And then you're also pushing your personal boundaries. You know, you're drawing stuff like really complex scenes with maybe multiple characters. You have some original ideas that can be like original characters that you execute really well. You're putting out work that other artists are starting to notice and respect. And that stage is usually super fun because you get to a point where you can actually start taking on commissions, like working for money. And depending on the studio, you might even be good enough to start working as a professional artist, like an in-house artist at a studio, like some of my students have. So, to wrap things up, how do you get to stage 3 as efficiently as possible? Well, you start with a plan. Like, don't wander, like follow a curriculum showing you all the skills that you need to learn in order, in the right order. Practice deliberately. Every session should have a focus and you track what you're learning. Then study effectively. Don't just draw, analyze, break things down, understand why things work. 4, get feedback. You always need like outside perspective to catch your blind spots. And then 5, be consistent. Like 30 minutes a day, but every day, if that's all you can do, will always be better than just 3 hours once a week. That's a fact. So look, 18 months to 3 years might sound like a long time. Or maybe it's surprising you and how little time that actually is. Either way, it's time that's going to pass anyway. So the question is, like 2 to 3 years from now, do you want to look back and wish you started today? Or do you want to look back at like near professional quality work that you're proud of? You know, start now, be deliberate, follow a path, and you'll get there faster than you think. So yeah, like I said a little bit earlier in the video, if you want to check out the class where I go over all the different artist skills and like in what order to tackle them, the link to the video should appear here in a second. Maybe I'll see you there, and I'll see you next week.